Welcome to the Nest Podcast, your home for nerd entertainment and sports talk, where your hosts, Brandon and Zach, hash out what's happening in video games and sports every week. Enjoy the show.
Hey guys, what's up? And welcome back to another episode of the Nest Podcast presented by Sportszilla. This is episode number 65, the Gary Zimmerman episode. I'm your host, Brandon, and joining me just by himself this week is Zach. We had a whole packed studio planned for you, but at the last minute, something came up and everybody had to bail. So it's just us, Zach.
Yes, it is.
But that's okay. We'll get through it. We've made it through worse. At least we have a lot of stuff that we can talk about because it's football season. And like most red-blooded Americans, I spend my Sundays around a glowing device in my house called a television, watching all the football games I can consume. And this week we got to start early because the Jags and the Texans kicked off in London in the wee hours of the morning.
Yep. Yeah, I was all ready for that game too, but then realized it was only on NFL Network. Don't have that channel. So that sucked.
Yeah, so that kind of rained on your parade, so to say, but it's not one that you would have liked to have watched because I know by default you had Minshew as your quarterback this week because Drew Brees is on a bye. So Minshew was in there for the last time. I'm going to go ahead and say that. I don't think he'll see your roster ever again.
No, unless something happens to Drew Brees, and even then I'll probably go shopping.
Yeah, I don't blame you. I would look for maybe the Steelers quarterback, Mason Rudolph. He's been decent since he came back. He's free in most leagues. I don't know. We would have to look at the waiver wire to see what the best quarterbacks is. You might be able to catch Kirk Cousins out there.
Yeah, of all people.
He's a better backup than Minshew at this point because Minshew only was able to lead the Jags to score 3 points. And at one point in the game, he gave up 4 turnovers in 11 snaps.
Oh, God.
Not a very good way to debut in London and not a very good way to presumably end your Jacksonville Jags season because the Jags rolling into a bye week and then they should have Nick Foles ready to go in week 11. So I think that's curtains on Minshew Mania.
Yeah. Yeah, it was fun while it lasted. He made the rounds of social media and had a little internet meme, I guess you'd call it, going around with his stash and everything. And
it's actually kind of good that he had such a shit game in his last one because it makes the argument so much clearer as to who you should start.
Yeah, there's no question.
Of course, you're going to go with Nick Foles now.
Yep. Yeah, there was no question. I don't think there was to begin with because he's the guy that they're paying. So I think they're gonna make him work.
Man, all I know is that Minshew Mania has ran wild in Jacksonville, and a lot of the fans have rallied behind Minshew, and there are, blogs and stuff like that from local sports writers that are, you would be stupid to take out Minshew and blah, blah, blah. That was, before this past game. Now they're all kind of quiet on that note. But, even Locker Room Talk made a Minshew Mania t-shirt. They didn't make a Nick the Dick t-shirt or anything like that.
Yeah, that's funny. Considering that the game was in England, I have heard a lot of players say that trip is rough because you don't really get a whole lot of time to adjust. A long flight, and then you're, obviously not staying in a familiar place. It's not your bed that you're used to and whatever. And then on top of that, you have to play a very physical sport and then fly right back home and do it all over again in a week and get some practice in between that. So I've heard that those games are usually not 100%. So I don't know if that had anything to do with Minshew, sucking or what, but it's a factor, I'm assuming.
I know this past baseball season when the Red Sox and Yankees played in London, I was obviously paying very close attention to that series, being that I'm a huge Red Sox fan. And I remember at the time some of the guys on the team saying that they felt like it was a long road trip that they were on, like a long West Coast road trip.
Yeah.
One of the guys even went a step further and as to say it felt like they were back home after playing a long West Coast trip because the time difference shifted in that direction or whatever. And that made a lot of sense to me because it's only, I think, from the East Coast, like 4 hours to London?
I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't think it's that much different than it is from, say, Boston to LA.
Yeah.
And the Jags play on the East Coast. The Texans would have the harder time, I would think, being that they had the further jump, the more time zones to jump. And they came out and kicked ass. So if that's the Jags' excuse, then that's pretty piss poor.
From New York to London is a 7-hour flight. So not like god awful, but it's
a 7-hour flight. But what's the time zone difference is what I'm asking. Because that's what the jet lag would be.
I see what you're saying.
Because I mean, it's a 4-hour flight, 5-hour flight from LA to New York.
Probably 5 or 6, I would say.
Yeah, so it's
a couple thousand
about the same,
Currently in London, it's 12:14 a.m.
Okay, so
tomorrow.
That's 5 hours difference. So I wasn't too far off on my guess. Yeah. It's not that big of a jump, is what I'm getting at. We've done worse being in the military.
Yeah, but we were also sitting on our ass for most of that.
What do you think they're doing on the flights?
No, I mean, they get there. They get what? I don't know when they land, but they probably get there 2-3 days early.
Yeah.
Hotel. Once they get in, they probably have that whole thing off.
Yeah, they probably sightsee and act like damn tourists.
Have some sort of workout or full practice, and then the next day they probably have a full practice, then football, and then probably the next day they go home. So I can see where it would screw with your daily routine and your whatever. But I also get the point that it's an excuse nonetheless, but it is what it is.
Yep. Anyway, some interesting things happened in the week leading up to the games that I want to cover. Of course, that was the trade deadline and all of that stuff was during that week. And we did see quite a bit of movement, surprisingly. Notably, Kenyan Drake got shipped from the Dolphins to the Cardinals and was an immediate impact in that offense. Didn't David Johnson get hurt or something along the lines? I know you have him on fantasy, or did.
He's been hurt a couple weeks.
Yeah, so picking up Drake, and then he instantly was plugged into the RB1 position there and excelled. So as long as Johnson is hurt, he's going to be fed the ball, and you can only think that that's going to get better for him as he gets more familiar with the offensive scheme there in Arizona.
Yeah, and then if Johnson does come back, they can always split the backfield,
Sure, absolutely. And, Kyler Murray could use all the weapons he can get.
Yeah, definitely. He's expected to return week 10. But like I said, they can always split the backfield and use both. A lot of teams do that nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, and I think he definitely showed that he can, run, and he's a durable guy, so he'll get his fair share. Mohamed Sanu went from the Falcons to the Patriots, and it looks early on like he and Tom Brady are going to be a pretty decent pairing. Tom seems to be able to find him, and they've had a pretty good kinship in practice. Nothing like Julian Edelman, but he's definitely another option for Tom to throw to. And that's obviously what they're lacking. The Pats are coming off their first loss of the season, and it's primarily because the offense couldn't really move the ball.
Right.
The Ravens jumped out early, got a good lead, and then coasted for the rest of the game. They used a very intricate but gimmicky run offense that consisted a lot of run pass options and stuff like that, where Jackson gets to make the final decision in split-second moments.
Yeah.
And it took the entire first half for the Patriots defense to really kind of figure out what was going on. The second half, the defense played a little bit better, but the offense played like shit.
Right.
So
yeah,
you're not going to win a lot of games when you can't move the ball. And that's to my point from a few weeks ago when I said that the offense has been sluggish. It's the defense that's been winning these games. I harped and harped and harped on the defense the past few weeks because that's been the most impressive part of the Patriots.
Yeah,
their offense have been lackluster. Go ahead.
They've had several shutout games, against. Everyone says that their schedule is crap or whatever, and that is what it is. But even that, when you can prevent a team from even scoring a field goal, that says something about the defense. And for them to give up 37 points this last game was significant for sure. And I think the Ravens caught a nice stride in the beginning, and they somehow kept it going. And like you said, the Patriots offense wasn't able to get going. And I think that has a lot to do with the changing of wide receivers. Josh Gordon is out now. Antonio Brown came in, lit the world on fire, and was gone. So there's been a lot of change. And I think Tom Brady has had, several players he could rely on. Edelman, Gronk, and Edelman can't do everything. So for him to have to find these new guys, and I don't remember what show I was watching, but someone asked Tom Brady how long it takes for him to get in sync with a receiver, and he said it takes about a month. So for I don't know how many other guys that they've had that we don't talk about, but for all that changing of the wide receiver position to go on, it makes sense why they've kind of struggled to find something. Yeah, and they were just basically relying on the defense to pull them through games, and if they could just score 2 or 3 touchdowns, and they'd win. So here we are.
Yeah, I mean you're absolutely right. And key injuries to wide receivers like N'Keal Harry, that's somebody that Brady got to know all preseason long and all training camp long, and then he was injured in preseason and didn't get to play in the regular season. So that's a lost weapon right out the bat. He'll be coming back for the second half of the season. Of course, Edelman's been banged up with bruised ribs the first half of the season and hasn't had his typical productivity. Yep. He's finally starting to get healthy, at least. And if some of these other guys can, get on the field and take some of the weight off of his shoulders, he can take less hits every day and, heal up a little faster. Dorsett hasn't really been much of a factor. Like you mentioned, Josh Gordon got released. That was somebody that Brady was just starting to find a rhythm with, and then he's gone, shipped out to Seattle.
I think they released him, and then Seattle just picked him up, which is kind of weird.
He was put on IR, which was crazy because he's not hurt.
Yeah, they said something about his, I don't even remember, but it was a weird issue that, as far as I know, Josh Gordon never even complained about, and obviously he's ready to go for Seattle, so that's a very strange thing.
And that's good for him. I'm glad he got picked up. I'm a Josh Gordon fan. I said it before the season started when we had Adam on, and he bet me that he wouldn't be able to make it the entire season. I can't remember if he said with the Patriots or just a full NFL season, because he's still got a good chance at a full NFL season, but he didn't make it with the Patriots.
Yeah, and he's on another good heavy quarterback team, so he'll get plenty of chances to catch the ball.
I hope he doesn't steal targets from Metcalf because that kid has been electric. And I love that I've got him on my fantasy team now.
I'm pretty upset that I gave up Russell Wilson. I was just thinking, I've got Drew Brees. I don't need two stud quarterbacks. And Drew Brees went and got hurt.
Yep, that sucks. You cut him early on too, or traded him early on, or whatever it is you did with him.
Yeah,
and
traded him to Adam for chump change.
Man, he trade raped you.
It's all good.
But a lot of the people, notably the guys on Sportszilla and stuff like that, have been posting all these memes and funny pictures about now how the Patriots have lost the game. And they're trying to make it seem like, oh, Pats fans are acting like it's the end of the world. Dude, the Patriots lose games every year. It happens.
And the one year that they didn't lose a game, they
lost the Super Bowl.
So what would you rather have?
So, yeah, I mean, it's like, okay, yep, they lost a game. Let's move on to the next one.
It reminds me of last year when the miracle in Miami happened and Miami beat the Patriots and everyone was just like, oh my God, this is the beginning of the end. But it's like we always say, in divisions, there's teams that are built to play the other teams in their division. And it's happened a lot of times where the Dolphins are terrible and they somehow beat the Patriots, and that's like their best win of the year because they play them every year.
Yep. And it happens all the time. They play them week 17 this year. And, I wouldn't be surprised if something fluky happens and the Dolphins make it a game. Yeah, It always happens. But one of the things that really kind of I started to comment on Facebook, and I was like, you know what? This is just going to get me going, and I don't even want to start. So I just backed off of it. But I'll talk about it here on the podcast because fuck it. This is my platform to rant and talk about whatever the fuck I want to talk about.
This is your safe space.
I mean, if you want to comment on it, comment on it. Fuck it. I'll talk back to you then. But this is me saying my piece. A 49ers fan posted a picture of Tom Brady and Lamar Jackson in like a little graphic that showed the final score and all that stuff at the end. And he just put as his little caption, because they haven't played anybody. Okay. Granted, the Patriots schedule has been fairly weak, but so has the San Francisco 49ers. They haven't played shit. They're 8-0. They survived against the Cardinals this past week to advance to 8-0. But here are the teams that they've played. The Tampa Bay Bucks. The Cincinnati Bengals. The Pittsburgh Steelers after Ben Roethlisberger was already hurt. The Cleveland Browns. The LA Rams. Decent. The Washington Redskins. The Carolina Panthers. Decent. And the Cardinals. So they've played two decent teams.
Yeah.
They haven't played a single team that is of a first place team or anything like that. The Ravens that just beat the Patriots are first place in the AFC North. They could be in contention for the number 2 seed going into the playoffs because of the struggles that Kansas City has had.
Mm-hmm.
That's a tough team. That's a good team.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens coming up with the 49ers because they have the Seahawks, the Packers, the Saints, and the Ravens.
Yeah, that's going to be an insanely hard stretch of games there.
So
yeah, I mean, everyone will try to think that the Rams are the best team that they've played, but the Rams have been shit this year.
Yeah. Do you know their record off the top of your head?
I don't. It can't be very great. No one's even talking about them.
No, I mean, and this is a team that was in the Super Bowl last year, even though they didn't really deserve it, but
yeah, they made it nonetheless. And they have at least a couple weapons. They just picked up Jalen Ramsey, and of course they have Gurley, and people for whatever reason think that Jared Goff is good. I'd say he's decent, but I mean, they're a pretty overrated team if you ask me.
They're 5-3 right now. So I mean, they at least have a winning record, but they haven't been all that. Their defense has been real suspect. They've given up a lot of points, and the games that they have won have been kind of like shootouts.
Right.
But
yeah.
Whatever. People will think what they think, and they'll celebrate any chance that they can for Tom Brady to lose. So whatever. At least the Ravens are a first place team and have an MVP hyped quarterback at the helm.
Absolutely.
And you know who wins, in hands down, who wins this weekend? The Green Bay Packers. You know why they win this weekend?
Not a clue.
Because they got their asses kicked by the Chargers. And all everybody is talking about is the Patriots lost and the Dolphins won. It's almost like the Packers get a bye for playing like shit against a shit team. Come on now. You got to show some hate to that fucker too.
That or nobody cares about the Packers.
Oh yeah, that too. At least not anybody in my circle. The only people that I really know that keep up with the Packers are Jerome and Ryan from Sportszilla. Those guys are both Packer fans, and I'm sure if they're listening, they're going to be like, well, fuck you too. But hey, Packers got off super fucking easy. And then last week, they wanted to gloat about, Aaron Rodgers' 6 touchdown game and all that stuff. You saw Packers shit plastered everywhere on social media last week. But this week, after they lose to the Chargers, you don't see shit. And they're all, posting the memes about, oh, the Dolphins won. Oh, the fucking Patriots lost. Yeah, you guys eat a dick.
Speaking of that, yeah, the Dolphins pulled up. They pulled through.
They did. They beat the Jets with Sam Darnold, with Le'Veon Bell.
Still seeing ghosts?
We're out of excuses for the Jets.
That's crazy.
Yeah, man. Earlier in the season, whenever Sam went out with mono and all that stuff, we kind of gave them the benefit of the doubt when they were losing. It's like, okay, well, they don't have their quarterback. This backup guy sucks. Oh, he's hurt too. Oh, shit, they're down to a third. Okay, that explains the problems in New York. Now, it's been 3 weeks. They had the first week where they dominated the fucking Cowboys. But after that, it's been loss. I don't know. I was talking to a Jets fan on Facebook today, and he seems to think that the problem is Adam Gase, their head coach. He says ever since he's came in, he's had a bad feeling about this guy, and he's pretty much fucked up the franchise. He thinks that he's some kind of inner working Jet conspiracy that they conspired to get people fired and hired and shit like that. And Gase is one of the masterminds behind it.
And this is the dude that had that weird bug eye look, right?
Yeah, exactly. That guy.
You can't trust someone that looks like that.
That's exactly what I said. I was like, he's been suspect ever since that moment.
Yeah, that's creepy.
Yeah, but the Jets, they suck.
They do, but they beat the Cowboys. So
yeah,
tell you.
It tells me that the Cowboys also suck.
Maybe that was just a fluke game. That happens, I guess. But good God,
it's not a good look for the Cowboys. That's for sure.
No.
But like you said, it could be worse. Let's see what else happened this week. Trent Williams was one of the lesser talked about guys that was holding out from training camp and refusing to go to his team. He finally reported to the Redskins, right? Do you know why his holdout is different and actually more significant than any of the others?
I heard that he had said he got cancer and something about the Redskins refused to, I don't know, do something.
So, Williams has played for the Redskins for several years now. He's a kind of a vet in the league. In 2013, it was noted that he had a growth but the team doctors said, "Oh, it's nothing to worry about. No big deal."
Yeah, that's what I was thinking of.
Don't even bother. It's fine. It's fine. Whatever. No big deal. Well, after 6 years of this, Williams complaining of headaches and then being like, "Oh, well, you play football. You bang heads for a living. That happens. All these guys have headaches." And then ignoring it. "Oh, it's no big deal, Trent. Just go back. Keep playing." Finally, he went and saw a specialist against Redskins permission or whatever. I'm not going to say against their orders, but they were like, "No, you don't need to see a specialist." He went and saw him anyway. Found out that he had fucking brain cancer and he could have either had chemo or had the surgery to have it removed. He opted to have the surgery. I forget what his reasoning was for not getting the chemo, other than the fact that he didn't fucking want to. He opted for the surgery to remove this tumor from his fucking head. I think that's a pretty, logical choice if you are in that situation. I guess the team wasn't too fond of it because he opted to have the surgery without their recommendation or whatever, but it saved his fucking life. So he finally came back. He's experienced pain wearing the helmets and stuff like that because he had to have a portion of his skull removed. And now he's at the point where he doesn't trust the Redskins. He doesn't trust their doctors. And it seems like he doesn't want to be affiliated with them at all. So his holdout wasn't necessarily for the money. It was because he doesn't like where he is. He doesn't trust the people that are supposed to be protecting him.
Yeah.
And that has to be the worst feeling ever. It's not the, "Oh, I feel like you should pay me an extra $87 million. No, it's "I don't fucking trust your doctors. You guys almost fucking killed me."
Yeah. Yeah. I don't blame him for sitting out. I would sit out until you cut me. And then whatever happens after that is just, up to fate or whatever.
And I'm sure the only reason he reported back now is basically because he had to, or he was going to lose years of eligibility or get fined certain amounts of dollars or whatever the case was, whatever contractual thing that he had to come back.
Yeah, man, that's a fucking terrible story. I don't like that at all. I don't think a team doctor should be able to tell you anything. Like, I get you give a recommendation, and then after that, I think you should be hands off. If a guy wants to go to the other side of the world and see some doctor for something, he's able to. It's his health. It's his body. You can't get mad at somebody for trying to ensure their health. Like, I don't like that at all. That's a bad look for that whole organization.
Well, and the organization responded by asking a third party to come in and perform a review of their medical process and how they handled the situation or whatever, which tells me they don't give a fuck about Trent Williams. They only care about clearing their names.
Yeah. Yeah. Look at this. These people said we didn't do anything wrong. We're okay.
Right. Exactly. That's what it seems like to me. If I'm a Redskins fan, I'm demanding that the ownership has to fucking sell. Get out of town.
Yeah,
like we don't want anything to do with you guys anymore. They're already the Deadskins for a fucking reason. Yeah. They suck. Like, the ownership, the management, the coaching, the whole team needs to be gutted. Change the fucking name while you're at it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a sour taste.
It really is, man. It's as sour as, the Cleveland Browns have it with Baker right now. They're sick of Baker Mayfield's shit.
He keeps giving it to him. You see the little fit he had at a reporter?
Oh yeah. Yeah. He's blowing up on reporters. And the thing about that, like, he blew up on a reporter in the middle of a week. It wasn't even a post-game press conference or anything like that whenever you just lost a hard game and your emotions are involved. It's like a fucking Tuesday afternoon and you're going to blow up on somebody just because you're in a bad mood. Mm-mm.
Yep.
And then he pulls this stunt where he shows up to the game with a full beard and then plays in the game with a handlebar mustache, and then after the game has a Minshew mustache.
Yep. I'll tell you the problem with the Browns. Their two biggest players, being Mayfield and OBJ, are both very selfish people, and they have a brand. And sure, they want to win, but I think what they want to do more is build their brand. You've seen these Baker Mayfield commercials where he's mowing the grass on the field and he's fucking with the breakers in the stadium, and he's not done shit. And people are paying him to be in stuff for whatever reason because he's popular.
Yep, he's on the same plateau with me right now as Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes, where he's being force-fed down our throats every single week, and it's nauseating.
Yeah.
I don't want to see him 52 times during a game mowing his yard.
Yep.
Or vacuuming the fucking stadium with a handheld vac that my grandma used in the 1980s. I don't need to see that. That's fucking stupid TV.
Yep. Yeah, I think last year was cool when the Browns got something going, because before that they hadn't won a game in 2 years. So it was fun to see an underdog story kind of come up. And then they made a whole bunch of roster moves and built a decent offense. They didn't spend shit on O-linemen, and they didn't spend shit on defense, and it shows. And they haven't been able to produce. And now the excitement of, wow, this shitty team is actually pulling it together is all gone. And now it's just all eyes on, all right, well, what more do you want? You know, you're supposed to be winning games, and it's not like they're losing to the best teams in the world. They're losing to fucking everybody.
Yep. Yeah. Anybody that plays them pretty much beats them. They're 2-6 on the season. Although I think they did somehow fuck around and beat the Ravens, which is kind of funny, but
that's another one. They're
in the division. Exactly.
So they play each other all the time. And I'm sure if Big Ben was healthy for when they play or whatever, I'm sure they would give them a run for their money too. But yeah, it's just, God, that's another organization that it's like, come on, get your fucking shit together.
Yep. And we kind of shitting on the Redskins. Then the Browns transition back to the Redskins, and Haskins actually made his first start this week. He's made a few appearances, but this was his first official start.
Yep.
I mean,
Didn't look good.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if I'm Daniel Jones, I take one look at the highlights and then shake my head and laugh, much like Haskins did when the Giants picked Jones over him.
Yep.
He's not been impressive this season. 4 interceptions, 12 completions. Not a very good way to start your career. But at least in his first full game, he didn't throw any picks. All of his interceptions came whenever he just got thrown into a game. So,
yeah, I think whether he's going to be good or not is still up for debate. But I said this earlier in the year, these young quarterbacks are put in starting positions way too fucking early.
Yeah, there have been a lot of them just from the class of 2019 that have already made starts. Obviously, Murray, we talked about him in Arizona a little bit. He's been okay for what it's worth as a rookie starter. And Jones, he came in week 3 or 4 or whatever it was, and hasn't looked back. And he's been decent. Can't put a lot of blame on him.
Yep.
Haskins has only had 1 start and a couple of, other appearances. Not really enough to tell, but it's not looking good early on. Stidham for the Patriots, the backup for Tom. He came in, threw a pick, instantly got benched. So not looking so good for him. Minshew had a few moments of brilliance, a few weeks where he really performed like a stud, and then he really, really hit a brick wall in the end. Yep. So, and let's see who else. Oh, Drew Lock was drafted in for this draft, but he's been hurt for the Broncos. He would be playing now because Flacco's hurt, but he's also injured. So some other schmuck is taking snaps.
Yeah. Wow. Before we move on, I wanted to get your opinion on another Browns topic.
Okay.
Did you see that OBJ and Jarvis Landry were told to change their cleats at halftime?
I did see that. I didn't really read the story or hear everything going on with it. Do you know the details behind it?
I do. So Odell Beckham was wearing Joker-themed cleats, and Jarvis Landry was wearing like some orange and gold-looking cleats. I'm sure the pictures are online if you want to look. So anyway, at halftime, the NFL, whoever from the NFL, told both of the players that they had to change their cleats or they wouldn't be allowed to play the rest of the game. Odell Beckham said that someone from the NFL cleared these cleats, and who knows what that someone is. It obviously wasn't the right person that they had to go to get the cleats, checked out or whatever. And the NFL rules state something along the lines of the cleats have to be the team's main color or black or white or a mix of those. So obviously a Joker themed cleat has nothing to do with orange, brown, blue, any color.
I call bullshit because the Cleveland Browns are a big joke.
Maybe that's what he was trying to put out there. But anyway, can't have those cleats. I think that I don't give a shit about what is on anyone's cleats, and that if players want to wear gold cleats, pink cleats, I don't really care. If that makes them feel better, that's fine. I'm not sure, but as far as I know, MLB players can wear some pretty crazy cleats.
They have to be in a certain standard. They have to be team colors or whatever. But yeah, I mean, Mookie Betts wears Jordans.
Yeah.
And they're always brightly colored. He wears like eccentric red ones. He wears black and white ones. He wears red and white ones. All kinds of stuff, but it always has like the matching color to the uniform.
Yeah. Yeah. I wouldn't be opposed to something like that. It's got to be kind of at least a little bit to do with your team, but I don't think the NFL needs to spend their time and money worrying about what cleats football players are wearing.
Well, and it seems like it's always Odell.
Oh yeah,
it?
He's always trying to make some fashion statement.
It's the watches. It's the cleats. It was last week when the Browns played the Patriots, he gave Tom Brady a pair of cleats that had real goat hair or whatever. Mm-hmm. It was made with goat hair. I don't know,
Brady
man.
Immediately threw those away.
I don't think so. I'd say Tom Brady probably keeps some of that stuff in case they ever become teammates. And then he's like, "Oh yeah, I still got it. Promise."
No, I'm sure he does, but that's a weird thing to give Tom Brady. Like, I get it if Peyton Manning were to do that, which he wouldn't, because Peyton Manning's not a shoe guy. At least he seems like it. But
imagine that Peyton Manning has like an entire room in his house, and it's just J's, Air Force Ones, like the LeBrons, the Pennies, the Kyries, everybody's shoe. He's just got them all.
That would be something. But like for a young wide receiver that hasn't done a whole hell of a lot, he's popular and he's got a brand like we were talking about. For a guy like that to give a literal no shit 6-time Super Bowl champion some goat cleats, it's like, what is this supposed to be? Like, thanks for validating my greatness. I don't get that. That was a weird move.
It was a way for Odell Beckham to be in headlines with Tom Brady.
Absolutely.
A way for him to have a picture sharing a moment with Tom. A way for him to be in the spotlight for 15 minutes.
And I think that's the same for all this other shit that Odell has done. He probably knew that expensive watch was going to get headlines. He knew that. How do you not know that Joker cleats aren't allowed on the field?
Oh, I'm sure he knows. He just doesn't care.
Yeah. And if it gets you a headline, then that's better for you. That I think that selfish mentality is not going to do well in the long run, because he's just going to be one of those Antonio Brown type players that eventually no one wants to play with.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. Antonio Brown's still sitting at home. Apparently, he's had to fire his maids, his cooks, all those people. Now he's doing it all himself,
Yep, sure is.
cooking and cleaning. He's just a regular domesticated person now, huh?
Yeah, he's just another unemployed American.
I wonder. I wonder if he goes and tries to get unemployment or something like that. That would be hilarious if he did. It's like, bro, you got millions in the bank.
At least you should.
Yeah, you really should. That's crazy. Let's see what else is going on in football. Anything notable? I know tonight we've got the Cowboys and the Giants. That'll be entertaining. They're division rivals, so I'll be tuned in for that. I'm so sad that baseball's over with, though.
Yep, sucks. We did get, however, our Gold Glove awards.
Yeah, you got one and I got one.
Yeah,
for our respective teams.
Yep.
Of course, for the Red Sox, it was Mookie Betts. He fourth consecutive Gold Glove award. He joined some pretty notable people on that list to be a 4 consecutive Gold Glovers. And I think you guys had a first timer, right?
Yeah, first timer Colton Wong at second base.
And you called that real early in the season. You were like, hey, if anybody's going to get it, it's this guy because he's good.
Absolutely. Yep. Granted, there's not a whole lot of competition at second base in the National League, but even if there were, he takes the cake for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's awesome. Congrats to him. I thought that maybe it would end up going to like a Kendall Marte or somebody like that, since he was the all-star and kind of was the front runner halfway through. A lot of times that just carries to the Gold Glove because nobody really pays attention to a second baseman's defense.
Yeah. He's like a shitty shortstop kind of.
Kind of, yeah. It's a weird position. And I mean, I think that's why guys like Dustin Pedroia can come on and be like an MVP, because it's like, holy shit, you're this good as a second baseman.
Yeah.
You're rocking the world. You're the best that we've seen in this position. So you're the MVP,
Yeah.
Which, speaking of MVP, I've been getting updates the entire time we've been on here about the baseball writers announcing finalists for all the awards. They just finished releasing the finalists for MVPs and Cy Youngs and all that, if you care to know any of them.
I'm sure they're the usual that we were talking about earlier last week.
I mean, since it's breaking news as of 3 minutes ago, I'll just go ahead and rattle it off. The AL MVP finalist, Bregman, Marcus Semien, and Mike Trout. The NL MVP finalist, Bellinger, Anthony Rendon, and Yelich. I don't see the Cy Youngs, but I'm sure that's the usual lineup as well that we've talked about, and we'll discuss it a little more whenever the awards are actually handed out and see if we agree or disagree, or if they even care.
I did see that Cardinals manager Mike Schilt is a finalist for Manager of the Year.
Oh, cool. Good for him. Yeah. He's an interesting case because he came on last season whenever the Cards fired, what was his name? Mike Matheny. Didn't he just get hired somewhere?
KC, yep.
Yeah, I thought I saw his name floating around. So that's kind of weird. He didn't have to move very far to his new team.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know where he was living this whole year, but
he just moved cross state. That's funny. But Schilt kind of inherited that job from him and then was named the full-time manager in the offseason. And he is one of the only, if not the only, manager in Major League Baseball to never be a player.
Yeah, I believe he had a short stint in the minors, but never made it to the bigs. And I don't think he had a very long career. And yeah, that's an extremely rare thing in the MLB is to be a manager and had never to play.
Yeah, that's good on him. You know, that goes to show that he learned the game from studying and watching and observing, and he had to be able to understand it and comprehend it without really experiencing it.
Yeah.
And that's tough to do.
Yeah. Kind of sounds like one of those guys who knows the game, understands the game, just wasn't very good at the game.
Sure. Yeah. That's how I always describe myself in basketball. Like,
Yeah.
I know how to play. I'm not good at it.
Yeah, I just can't do it.
You know, ignoring the fact that I'm like a 5'10" white guy, you know, whatever.
That does hurt you.
Yeah, you know, people don't think so, but it does.
Yeah, I mean, if LeBron wasn't 6'8", he wouldn't be as good of a player.
If he was 5'8",
he wouldn't be in the NBA.
Nope, that's true. Genetics play a huge part in all of that.
Mm-hmm.
That's why there's so few guys that actually are good enough to make it there.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. You know, the past few weeks I've been doing the clearing the bench segment at the end of our podcast episodes just so I can ramble on about a few little things that have happened. And this week I literally want to talk about benches clearing in the NBA. The Joel Embiid and Karl Anthony Towns scuffle was absolutely hilarious. I love what's passable as a fight in some sports. My wife and I were talking about it on Saturday night when we were watching UFC 244, and we were watching the main event with Jorge Masvidal and Nate Diaz, and Masvidal was landing some monster shots on Nate, and we'll get into more of this in a minute, but he was landing some brutal shots, and we're just laying there watching like, ooh, okay, that was a good one. Ooh, wow, nice. But in a fight in NBA, MLB, NFL, if they push each other, you're like, oh my God, oh, they're fighting. Oh shit.
Yep.
Why do we do that?
Because you're not supposed to do that in that sport, especially the NBA. You're not supposed to shove anyone for anything. And so when it does happen, it's funny. And that, I like how you called it a scuffle, because that's all it was. I don't think anyone threw a punch. I think they kind of wrestled around a little bit, and it was hilarious.
The only punches that I saw was Embiid later shadow boxing as he was going into the locker room. I almost said the dugout, into the locker room. It's like, dude, you had a little push fight and now you're shadow boxing?
Yeah. Yeah. The most notable fight recently from the MLB that I can remember is when the Texans player fought the Blue Jays player. Do you remember that? That was
Rougned Odor
and
Jose Batista.
Yeah. They landed bombs on each other.
Odor did. He's the one that landed the shot on Batista, and there's a picture, a still, where his fist is connecting, and it's like knocking Batista's glasses off his face. Yeah, that was a good shot. Yeah. That dude's gangster.
That was legit. But that doesn't happen very often.
No, it really doesn't. One that stands out in my mind was from the 2018 baseball season when pitcher Joe Kelly and first baseman Tyler Austin, I think was his name, got into it after Kelly beamed him, and then Austin charged the mound, and Kelly was like, all right, come on, motherfucker, and ended up getting him in a headlock and just throwing like little rabbit punches at him. That was the last one I remember. Kelly walked away with like a ripped jersey, some blood coming out of his lip or whatever. It was a good little fight.
Yeah, those are always funny.
Of course, I've been at 2 ball games now where there were bench clearing brawls. One in Tampa, where I saw Johnny Gomes run from left field and just throw a crow hop haymaker into a pile of Tampa Bay Rays.
Jeez.
And then I saw the one that happened this year whenever the family was at the fireworks at the Jumbo Shrimp game.
Yeah, that's
and
right.
There was the benches clearing there too. I still don't know what that fight was about.
Yep. Somebody did something.
Yeah, that's all it takes. Steph Curry broke his hand.
Sure did.
While we're clearing the benches. That pretty much destroys the Warriors season.
Yeah.
But gives him a chance to rest, Clay a chance to rest, and the Warriors can get a good draft pick.
Yeah. I can't say I'm happy to see anyone get injured, but I am happy that we'll have a finals that doesn't involve the Warriors. That'll be nice.
Yeah, it's a breath of fresh air after, the past few years of dominance. And it's kind of funny. You haven't really seen as many people turn on the Warriors for winning all the time as the Patriots.
No, not at all.
Or, any other team that's kind of dominant in their sport. It seems to always get a pass, which I think is kind of funny. Anyway, it's neither here nor there. It's just, rubbing your nose in it that you're all hypocritical. But, we were talking a few weeks ago, Justin and I were, about Appalachian State and how they had climbed up to the top 20 rankings and that they were doing really well for a small school.
Yeah.
Well, 2 years in a row now, they've lost to unranked Georgia Southern. That school has their number. It's a school that's in the Sun Belt Conference or whatever with them, conference rivals. They play every year, and 2 years in a row, Georgia Southern's knocked Appy State out of the top 25.
That's funny.
That's got to feel good as a Georgia Southern player and fan to know that you're fucking up their season.
Yeah.
You get to play spoiler.
Yeah, you might be an unknown school, but you damn sure ruined their chances.
And the last little bit in clearing the benches that I want to talk about before we get into some UFC 244 is that the New York Yankees declined an option on Edwin Encarnacion, their DH slugger, which I suspect was to free up money to hopefully compete in the JD Martinez sweepstakes. But breaking news as of today, JD Martinez opted in, and he's staying with the Boston Red Sox. So now the Yankees are down a slugger, and they're not going to have a chance to get JD. Losing JD would have hurt, but losing him to the Yankees would have hurt a shit ton worse.
Boy, howdy, would it have. And now I guess that means that Mookie is most likely looking for a new home.
That, yeah, I guess so. That's the Red Sox are trying to get under a certain threshold. They now know that they are going to have to cover a good chunk of change for JD Martinez next year. I could certainly see a scenario where Mookie Betts is traded. I could see a scenario where Jackie Bradley is traded. They have to get rid of some of these guys in order to get under that self-imposed tax that they're getting under.
Right.
And I don't know. We'll keep an eye on it as the offseason progresses and give updates. And I may come up with a few conspiracy or harebrained strategies that I would go with. But for the most part, I'm really curious to see what the new GM, Shane Bloom, does with the organization, because he was the architect of the Tampa Bay Rays, and they took the lowest payroll in baseball to the playoffs this year.
Yeah, that was very impressive.
So if he can work his magic with $53 million, imagine what he can do with 280.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I'm excited. I think Red Sox fans should have reason to be excited going into this season. All signs on Chris Sale point to good. So hopefully he's back to being Chris Sale next year. I mean, Porcello's gone, so that's a big chunk of change that you don't have to pay for. But you've still got Chris Sale. You've still got David Price. You've still got Nathan Eovaldi. You've got JD Martinez is for sure going to be there. Xander Bogaerts is for sure going to be there. Rafael Devers is going to be there. Andrew Benintendi's still there. So you've got a lot of the guys that were on that World Series team that are still there. Yeah. And now you can just plug and play with some new guys. Maybe somebody catches fire. Maybe you've got a Juan Soto just waiting in the wings.
Yeah, you never know.
So hopefully that happens and they can at least be contenders. And I think Bloom has just as good a chance as any to get them there because of his past successes with evaluating and scouting talent. He's not known for going and getting the big free agent acquisition. He builds from within. And if the Rays are any indication of his work, he's a good one.
Yeah. And that's a smart move too. It's a lot cheaper to do it that way instead of pay one guy $300 million and then you're basically tied up. It's a lot easier to get young talent guys who you don't have to pay a whole bunch and get a whole bunch of them. You know,
you just have to know what you're looking for when you're recruiting and drafting. And if you've got an eye and a talent for that, then it sets you apart.
Yep.
Strasburg, World Series MVP, opted out of his contract, so he's going to be on the free agent market. So that'll be interesting. Yankees need pitching. They freed up money in hopes to get JD. Now they have money possibly to throw at Strasburg.
And he won't have to hit.
He won't have to hit. He won't have to do anything except for throw a baseball. And Strasburg and pinstripes scares me.
Yeah. Yeah, two huge pitchers are up for grabs right now. It'll be very interesting to see who grabs them.
Yep, because Garrett Cole is the other one that you're alluding to. He's now, and as of 2 seconds after the World Series, a free agent.
Yeah.
He was quick to let everybody know that he is no longer affiliated with the Houston Astros.
That's for sure.
So UFC 244. Good card.
Boy, howdy.
Very good card. I was impressed with Lee.
Yes.
That head kick knockout that he scored on
I don't know how. Gregor Gillespie?
Yeah, that one. That head kick was phenomenal. It was, I mentioned earlier that Veronica and I were watching the fights together, and we were just laying there and we were talking, and I just started going, like slapping her in the leg, and she was like, "What?" Because she was kind of reading a book or whatever mid conversation. I started slapping her, and she was like, "What?" I'm like, "Do not take your eyes off of this TV until they show a replay." And she did, and she was like, "Holy shit!" Like when she saw it, she was like, "That dude got knocked the fuck out."
Yeah.
And there were quite a few, big knockouts, big fights. Our boy Johnny Walker, he made his return after his injury. But Corey Anderson was a monster. He was another animal that we had never seen before.
Yeah, he wasn't having it.
No, Corey Anderson was a ranked opponent, and Walker came in right there on the cusp, ready to crack the top 10. And Corey Anderson said, "I'm not going to be your stepping stone."
No, you're not just breezing through me so you can go onward.
Right. And all during the fight, they were talking about like potential fights between John Jones and Walker and stuff like that. It's like, bruh, don't look past Corey Anderson.
Yeah, we were saying that too. We were like, man, there's finally potentially somebody that could stack up against John Jones, and he needs some work. He still has a lot of holes in his game. I mean, if you see how Corey Anderson beat him, it wasn't anything that spectacular. He just couldn't get anything going, and he took the damage, and it was stopped. He was basically knocked out, but not necessarily knocked out. He was like probably just a few punches away from being fully knocked out, and the ref stopped it.
It was a good stoppage. He was getting his ass kicked.
Oh yeah, for sure. But man, it's crazy to think that guy is that big, and Like, how do you not just put an arm up and keep every single person away from you?
I don't know. I can't explain it.
Yeah. But yeah, it's back to the drawing board for the young Johnny Walker.
Yep. And, maybe he'll get another fight whenever we lock him up with Masvidal and Diaz too, because that's a certainty after the way that this one ended.
Yep.
Not that I don't think there's any kind of conspiracy or any kind of like people are debating the finish or protesting it or anything, because I think everyone well agrees that Masvidal kicked Diaz's ass.
Absolutely.
In the fight. It's unfortunate that it was ended in the hands of the doctors and not ended in the octagon. Like Masvidal said post-fight, I didn't get to baptize Nate. So
yeah.
Street Jesus has to knock somebody out to baptize him.
It's never fun to leave the decision of a fight in the hands of judges and in the hands of a doctor, especially. So that was a downer. But you're right. I mean, Masvidal was just dominant that whole fight. Nate might have gotten one or two clean shots, but it was damn near all Masvidal. And if I'm Nate, of course you're looking for a rematch because you want to prove that you're the baddest and stuff like that, but you've got a whole nother animal here. Nate might want to start trying to take him down or something like that. I don't think he can stand and bang with Masvidal.
No, Masvidal's stand-up was on point, but at the same time, if you're the baddest motherfucker, you don't want to just win by an armbar. You want to knock somebody out, And I
think part of the game plan was, listen, this is what this fight is, and we're fighting. We're not. This isn't necessarily right. We're just fighting.
And that's what sucks, because then MMA rules stepped in and stopped it.
Yep.
Even though Nate clearly was saying, no, I'm good. I'm going to fight. I'm good. They still stopped it.
Yeah.
Oh, well. Back to the drawing boards on that one too, because we'll have to wait for Nate's face to heal up before we can get another one. And that dude's out here looking like a baseball.
Yeah.
You see it? It's all swollen and stitched up. It looked just like a baseball.
And that thing started leaking immediately.
Yeah, it did. Joe Rogan said, he called it. He's like, he's got a lot of scar tissue. He's going to do this. This is going to happen with Nate Diaz.
Yeah.
So
it makes sense. I mean, when you've been fighting for how many ever years?
His whole life. That's one thing I really did kind of dig about this whole pay-per-view telecast, was it kind of gave you a backstory on these guys, how they grew up, what they were like as kids. Masvidal was on his own at 5 years old because he lived with a single mom that worked 2 jobs.
Mm-hmm.
So he spent a lot of time on his own, just going out and fighting in the parking lots, getting in trouble.
Yeah. Yeah. Did you see the clips of him doing the street fights?
Sure did.
In Kimbo Slice's, whatever you want to call that.
His little backyard promotion. Yeah.
Yeah. God, that's fucking brutal.
It really is. But that's what made Masvidal. He's hard as nails because of that upbringing.
Yeah. You don't become hard as nails by living a cush life in Beverly Hills somewhere or something.
And same can be said about Nate. I know he didn't grow up like a king in Stockton, California. That's rough neighborhoods there too. And he owned the playgrounds, owned the schoolyards and stuff like that. That's how he got found. He was beating up jokers in a parking lot, and then they were like, "Hey, why don't you come and train and actually fight for real?"
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Luckily, he had a brother that kind of guided him into the sport.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. That's a cool story all around. I didn't really care one way or the other who would have gotten the decision or whatever it might have been. But I think now all bets are off on Masvidal just taking the whole thing. I mean, how can you not? Unless, like I said, unless Nate starts doing some groundwork. I think if he just tries to stand up and box again, it's Masvidal's to lose.
Yeah, and I think it kind of sucks that Masvidal's already agreed to want to do this again. with Nate because I want to see him fight for a belt, a real belt.
Yeah.
You know, I think he's on a track record now where he's been knocking out dudes left and right. He's been winning fights. I mean, put him up.
Yeah.
Put him up for the title.
I think if he finishes Nate again, then it's only a matter of time. I mean, there's nothing else for him to do. Like you said, he's been knocking dudes out, so just keep feeding him. What did you think of Darren Till's fight? This was his first fight at 185.
Yeah, he looked good. He looked big, very big at 185s. I think he looked comfortable. I think he'll be there for the remainder of his career. It looked like it was a more natural fit for him, I think.
Yeah, I think looking at him during that fight, I'm dumbfounded as to how he got down to 170.
No, it's stupid that he was cutting that much weight.
Who the fuck told him to do that?
It probably was one of those things like back in the day when he was an amateur or whatever. It was like, hey, these guys up here are bigger guys or whatever. You cut down the weight, they're smaller, they don't hit as hard. You'll be a monster. Mm-hmm. If you can get down to it, you'll be so much bigger and blah, blah, blah. It gives you the advantage. Yep. But now that everybody is so skilled at this level, it's not like you're beating up schlubs that are working at Burger King part-time and, you know, training part-time. Yep. These are full-time competitors.
Yep. Everyone still cuts weight, but I think now people don't cut weight and then are just completely depleted to where they can't fight. They cut weight to where, okay, it might be a struggle to get down to this weight, but once I'm done with the weigh-ins, I can get right back up and I'm almost to 100% within a day or whatever. And I think for Darren Till going down that far was just way too much for him. And he looked good against Kelvin Gastelum. Kelvin didn't look bad. But yeah, I think Darren Till is in a good place here at this weight class. But he definitely needs, of course, some more fighters. There's huge guys at 185. But I guess Darren Till is a big guy himself. I don't know if it's true, but I think Adam told us that he walks around at like 210.
Yeah, something like, which is believable.
Yeah, it makes sense to me. That is huge.
But I don't want to see him fighting 205.
No.
But I think this is his natural home, and this is where he's going to be able to make an impact. And coming in and beating Gastelum off the bat, it automatically puts him in at least, you know, getting closer to be in line for a title shot here.
Yeah, it was kind of a smart move to not just fight a no-name middleweighter. Mm-hmm. So yeah, it kind of puts him on the map.
Yep, at least puts him, you know, top 5.
Yeah,
somewhere there.
I'd say my favorite fight was Kevin Lee. That was just phenomenal. That was spectacular, and I was super excited for that because I knew that Kevin Lee had just started training with Faraz Sahabi, who is GSP's coach. Man, he's back in to that limelight that we kind of knew him at, where it's like, hey, this young stud Kevin Lee is up and coming. He had a couple of losses, and now he's changed coaches, changed camps, and he back.
Looks focused.
Yeah,
very much refocused. He looked like he was in great shape, and he had an electric offense. That head kick, holy shit.
So perfect. Like it was timed so perfectly. You got his attention with the jab and just came out of nowhere with the head kick and just put him away. That was beautiful.
Yep. It was knockout of the night for sure.
Yeah. For sure. Definitely.
You got anything else you want to cover tonight?
No, I don't think so. That pretty much covers it.
It's almost time for kickoff, so get off here and go watch Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys against Daniel Jones and the New York Football Giants.
That's where it will be.
Man, it would be my dream to work for ESPN.
That'd be pretty cool.
That would be great. That would be the best job. And it's kind of funny. I'll leave our listeners with this little funny story. ESPN headquarters is in Bristol, Connecticut. This week, Randy Moss was intending to fly to ESPN headquarters. He ended up landing in Bristol, Tennessee, which of course is my old backyard. And if ESPN headquarters was in Bristol, Tennessee, I would have never moved.
What a hilarious thing to happen.
Yeah, it's so funny.
I picked the wrong Bristol.
That's 2 times this year that East Tennessee airports have been in the news. The Randy Moss thing, and then there was the Dale Earnhardt Jr. plane crash at East Tennessee airport. So something crazy about East Tennessee airports.
Is East Tennessee the new Bermuda Triangle?
Maybe. Find out next week on the Nest podcast. Dun, dun, dun. But seriously, that's all that we have for you guys tonight. Please tune in next week when we might talk about that or some other sports related things. Also, this coming Thursday, we're going to have our first Throwback Thursday episode with Growing Back 8-Bit. So be sure to tune in for that. We'll be talking about all of our favorite video games and maybe give you some ideas of things to get your loved ones for Christmas this year. That being said, thanks for listening. Thanks for your support. We definitely appreciate it, and we will see you next week. Peace.
Stay connected with Brandon and Zach on Facebook and Instagram at The Nest Podcast. And tune in next week for a brand new episode. And thanks for listening.